You don't forget certain cases. Not the ones that shake you at your core, the ones that steal your sleep and keep replaying like broken film in your mind. Jay Slater's disappearance was one of them. I've worked homicides, drug busts, even hostage negotiations in my 25 years on the force, but nothing clung to my conscience quite like the search for that boy. It started as a missing persons case. A British teenager vanishes on holiday in Spain. Happens more than people think. Son, booze, drugs, a bad decision or two. Most of them turn up, hungover and sheepish. Jay didn't. What started as a standard search and rescue spiraled into a mystery that still hasn't been solved. And in the middle of it all is a name that haunts every one of us who combed those mountains for days. Omar Nadim, his so-called friend. I wasn't part of the initial local response team. I came in later, called in by a contact from the Guardia Civil who knew my history. I had retired 2 years earlier, but old instincts don't rust. They just wait for a reason. When I read the file, saw the details, I didn't hesitate. Jay Slater was 19. Young, impulsive, with a bit of a record back home. Minor stuff, shoplifting, cannabis possession, trespassing. Not a thug. Just a kid still figuring things out. He'd gone to Tenerife for a music festival, took a detour one night with some new acquaintances, and vanished into thin air near a remote village in the mountains. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And the last known person to see him? Omar. A low-level dealer from Manchester with connections across Europe. A ghost when it suits him, charming when it doesn't. I knew the type. I've seen 100 Omars, small fish in a dirty pond, always a step behind someone meaner. Jay had called his friend Lucy at around 8:30 a.m., panicked, disoriented. Said he didn't know where he was, had 1% battery left. Then he was gone. Disappeared. We searched the Masca ravine for days. Dogs, helicopters, drones. No trace. No phone, no clothes, no signs of struggle. Nothing but dust, rock, and the buzz of speculation. And while we combed through thorny underbrush and treacherous terrain, Omar flew home. Just like that. He gave one statement, shrugged his shoulders, and vanished. He said Jay had stayed at their rented Airbnb overnight, then wandered off in the morning. Said he was acting weird, wanted to go back to his hotel, refused a ride. That was it. But nothing about that story made sense. Let me tell you why. First, Jay had no reason to be up in that area. It wasn't on any route to his accommodation. The taxi would have cost him €100 easy if he could even find one. And yet, Omar says Jay declined a ride? Nonsense. And if he did, why not walk back with him? Why let a young kid, unfamiliar with the landscape, hike off on his own into mountainous terrain with no water, no signal, and no shoes made for walking? Second, we pulled traffic camera footage from nearby roads. There's a 2-hour gap between the last time Jay was seen alive and when Omar claims he left the village. 2 hours. That's a long time to be looking for a taxi. What was he doing? Why didn't he raise the alarm sooner? I interviewed a dozen locals. A couple had seen the boys. Said they were arguing in the early hours. Said Jay looked scared. One woman described it as like a lad who realized he was in over his head. That's not a quote you forget. I know how these things go. In the underworld, favors are currency. You get someone across a border, hook them up with product, and suddenly they owe you. Jay wasn't a major player. But he could have been a mule. He could have been a witness. Or he could have just gotten in the way of something Omar didn't want anyone to see. I'm not saying Omar killed him. I don't know if Jay is dead, and God knows I pray he isn't. But I am saying that boy knew more than he told the police. And in cases like this, silence is complicity. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've seen families crumble under the weight of not knowing. I've seen mothers turn into shadows, siblings become shells. Jay's mom, Debbie, begged for answers, stood on that mountain for days hoping for a miracle. And Omar? Not a word. Not a damn word. The inquest was scheduled 6 months after Jay's disappearance. A formality, they called it. But it wasn't formal to those of us still grappling with the questions. It wasn't formal to those of us who knew something stank to high heaven. I sent in my testimony. Not official, not requested, but I did it anyway. I laid out what I knew, the timeline inconsistencies, the suspicious behavior, the witnesses whose statements didn't make it into the early press coverage. And I named Omar. Boldly. He must come forward. Not for me. Not even for the law. But for Jay's family. For truth. When someone disappears, especially abroad, there's a script everyone follows. Blame the location, speculate about foul play, criticize the victim's choices. But too often, the people standing closest to the flame get to walk away without a burn. Omar walked. He should have been pressed harder, held for longer, questioned again once new evidence surfaced. But he vanished back into the fog of Manchester's street life, blending into the crowd like he always does. And unless he's forced to speak under oath, he never will. I'm not naive. I know how international jurisdictions work. I know what happens when a kid with a troubled past goes missing while partying overseas. Sympathy wanes. Headlines shift. But that shouldn't mean we give up. This isn't just about finding a body. It's about accountability. It's about justice. I've worked in law enforcement long enough to know we don't always get the ending we want. But we can fight for the ending we deserve. And right now, that means demanding answers. From every witness. From every friend. And especially from Omar. To the authorities, reopen the case if you must. Re-interview everyone. Subpoena travel records. Look for digital traces. To Omar, come forward. You owe Jay that much. You owe his family that much. Whatever you're hiding, whatever made you run, the truth is better than the silence. The truth, even ugly, offers closure. Silence only deepens wounds. To Jay, wherever you are, I hope you know we didn't stop. We didn't forget. And we never will. Author's note. This is a work of creative nonfiction. Some details have been fictionalized for dramatic effect. It is based on the broader themes of real-world cases involving missing persons and the frustrations that surround investigations where key witnesses fail to cooperate. Subscribe the channel to get such videos.